When I saw my daughter embraced by our black maid, I never expected such a life-changing revelation. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday, just an ordinary day in a not-so-ordinary life. The house was quiet, save for the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background. I was in the kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee filling the air, but my heart was heavy, a tightness in my chest I couldn't shake. I was staring at the clock, its relentless ticking echoing through my mind. I should have been at work. I should have been doing something productive. But all I could do was keep thinking about how distant I felt from everything, from everyone. That's when I heard it. Laughter. It was a sweet sound, but not one that came from my lips. I stepped out into the hallway, my breath shallow. I could see them from the corner of my eye. My daughter, Sophia, all of 5 years old, enveloped in the warm embrace of our maid, Clara. Their arms wrapped around each other tightly, as if the world outside simply didn't exist. Clara's dark skin glimmered in the afternoon sunlight, a stark contrast to Sophia's pale arms clutching her like a lifeline. The warmth radiating from their bond felt foreign to me, electric. I froze. Memories flooded in the nights I spent working late, the weekends I felt too drained to be present, the times I rushed past moments of connection. Clara's presence felt like a shadow that constantly loomed, and yet, here she was, sharing giggles, soft whispers, secrets filled with joy. My heart sank further as I realized how easily she had become the motherly figure Sophia adored. I felt a knot twist deeper inside me. The sight was mesmerizing. There was a tenderness that peeled away the layers of tension surrounding me. But just as quickly, it turned to a prick of jealousy. They were bonded in a way that I had failed to be. I took a step closer. The hardwood floor creaked beneath my feet, breaking the spell of silence. Sophia turned her head, eyes wide with innocence, light dancing in her gaze. Clara's arm dropped swiftly, but the spark between them lingered. For a breath, silence hung thick in the air. I felt everyone's gazes shift to me, the unspoken words and judgments swirling around like storm clouds. "Mommy, look." Sophia beamed, not a hint of concern in her voice. "Clara said I could help feed the kittens. Can we please?" I was rooted in place, arms trembling by my sides. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to pull her into my arms and tell her everything would be okay. But instead, I could only stammer, searching for words that wouldn't come. The surprise in Clara's expression mirrored the chaos in my heart. Of course, I finally managed, but the word tasted bitter on my tongue. Would I ever be enough? The warmth in the room drained, leaving only a chilling tension. Clara's eyes met mine, a mixture of empathy and something else, a challenge, maybe? I caught a glimpse of the strength behind those gentle hands. "Come on, Sophia," she said softly, guiding my daughter back toward the kittens. I watched them walk away, my heart pounding, the fear of losing my daughter clawing at me. Was I too late? How had I allowed someone else to step into my place? The noise of their laughter faded, replaced by the haunting sound of my thoughts racing. "Mom," Sophia called back, her tone full of sunshine. "Are you coming?" I hesitated. I wanted to run to her, to sweep her up and promise that I would be better. But the weight of my failure felt insurmountable. The hollow silence answered her, my voice caught in my throat. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moments bled together in a haze, each ticking second stretching and warping as I stood frozen in the kitchen, watching the two of them disappear into the hallway, their laughter echoing off the walls like a haunting bell. I felt small and far away, both physically and emotionally. The butterflies in my stomach turned to lead, grounding me but suffocating at the same time. "No, you cannot lose her," I whispered to myself, trying to rally whatever courage remained. I would not let this slip through my fingers. But how? The question tied itself in knots around my mind, pulling me into a spiral of self-doubt. Would I ever be able to bridge the gap that stretched like a chasm between me and Sophia? I took a shaky breath, pressing my palms against the cool countertop, needing something solid to hold on to. It was silly, I told myself. I was being childish. I loved my daughter, the evenings we spent reading, the bedtime stories thick with fantasy. We had those memories, right? Yet the stark contrast burned in my chest. Clara seemed to fill a void I didn't know existed. In their shared giggles, I heard whispers of secrets I had yet to share, of stories untold. It was a realization that cut deeper than I expected. What if Sophia already began to confide in Clara, drawing closer to her while my distance only grew? Before I could spiral further into despair, the unmistakable sound of pawing at the door drew my attention. I glanced up, the kitten's tiny mews cutting through the tension like a hot knife. I hesitated for only a moment before moving toward the sound, momentum propelling me forward as if the kittens shared the urgency in my heart. I opened the door to the little nursery where the kittens were kept. The sight of Sophia and Clara kneeled on the floor hit me harder than any revelation could. The room was filled with warmth. Sunlight poured in, illuminating the space like a celestial chamber. My daughter gently cradled a fluffy ball of fur in her small hands, her face aglow with wonder. Clara sat beside her, patient and nurturing, guiding her through the process of feeding the tiny creatures. "Look, Mommy." Clara taught me how to hold them. Sophie's eyes gleamed with excitement as she looked up at me, but would they see me as a stranger? In that moment, I felt two contrasting emotions colliding within me, the instinctive urge to protect my little girl and a budding appreciation for the kindness Clara offered. If only I had allowed myself to be more present, to explore Sophia's world instead of letting it stagnate under my weight of worries. A rush of vulnerability swept over me, and suddenly, tears threatened to spill. Taking a step into the room, I opened my mouth to break the silence, but found myself unable to form the words. Instead, I knelt beside them at eye level. "Can I hold one too?" My voice came out softer than I intended, a whisper mightier than thunder in the heavy air. Sophia's face lit up with pure joy, the kind that dances in a child's eyes like rays of sunshine. "Yes, Mommy. Look, this one is the friendliest." As I reached for the kitten, Clara's gaze met mine, a moment suspended in time where empathy sparked unspoken communication. I felt a flicker of connection and hoped to bridge the chasm between us with a gentle smile. After a few moments, I finally cradled the tiny creature against my chest, the soft warmth spreading through me. I watched Sophia beam as she happily narrated the color of the kitten's fur and how they played amongst themselves. "Isn't she beautiful, Mommy?" "Absolutely," I replied, swallowing hard, wishing I could encapsulate this moment forever. And just as I began to feel that familiar warmth of hope rekindling within me, Clara's phone buzzed, pulling her momentarily away. She glanced at the screen and, sensing the shift in atmosphere, rose to answer it in the adjoining room. "What do you think Clara is doing?" Sophia asked innocently, her eyebrows furrowed slightly. Distracted for a moment, I looked at her. "Probably just work stuff." Sophia nodded, but I could see the distant cloud of worry that flickered across her small features. "Will she be back soon?" I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the pang of jealousy at the way her little heart seemed to cling to Clara's presence. "Of course," I replied, although I felt the grip on my heart tightening around something I wasn't ready to face. But as I found myself lost in those innocent eyes, I vowed to become the mother Sophia deserved, to be the beacon in her life, unclouded by insecurity. Yet an unsettling feeling slid through me, a nagging thought I couldn't shake. What if Clara wasn't just there to share the weight of motherhood? What if she was meant to be more than that? As I stood there, I heard Clara's voice in the other room, rising slightly in tone, the urgency palpable, a conversation clearly getting heated. My heart raced, the pitter-patter coursing through me. What if I was right? Before I could contemplate any further, the door swung open, and Clara stepped back into the nursery, face pale, eyes wide with something unspoken. We need to talk," she said, my heart skipping a beat as dread swept over me. Her tone signaled that this conversation would unveil something that could shatter the fragile peace we had just begun to rebuild. The moment hung thick in the air, a storm brewing that threatened to pour down upon us all. The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, wrapping around us, pressing in. We need to talk. Clara's eyes darted nervously between me and Sophia, uncertainty flickering like a candle in a gale. I could feel my insides nodding at her tone, the hint of dread curling its fingers around my heart. What is it? I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. Sophia, blissfully unaware of the growing tension, continued to cuddle the kitten, her spirit untouched, or so I hoped. Clara took a deep breath, her brows furrowing as she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. It's about my job, she began hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper, as if the very words would shatter something precious. My stomach twisted. I had dreaded this conversation, knowing there was always a risk that Clara's presence would fade into something distant, a mere ripple in the fabric of our home. If you're thinking of leaving, it's not that. She cut me off gently, her expression softening. It's about what is happening in your home, in our lives. Sophia glanced up, sensing the change in atmosphere as she held the kitten a little tighter, her innocent face creased with confusion. Can we play with them more, Mommy? Soon, sweetheart, I murmured distractedly, my focus on Clara. What do you mean about what is happening? Clara took another step closer, her gaze steady but guarded. I think Sophia deserves someone who can be there for her fully, she said, her voice steadying. I care about you both so much. But it's becoming clearer by the day that, well, you're struggling to find your way back to her. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, embarrassment washing over me like cold water. I know it's not perfect, but I'm trying. My heart ached, and I broke eye contact, focusing instead on the kitten, the distraction fragile and enticing. I see that, Clara responded. Her tone softened. The woman who had quickly transformed into a trusted confidant was now carefully revealing a deeper truth. But there are things you don't know. Things about me and about your past together. My heart dropped. A sinking feeling emerging, something in her voice triggered a buried memory, a piece of me I dared not acknowledge. What do you mean? Clara hesitated, her words dancing on the edge of being spoken. There's something about why I'm here, and it's intertwined with your story. It's not just about helping you navigate motherhood. Something happened to your family long before you ever met me. I could feel every ounce of air being sucked from the room, a vacuum churning beneath my feet. What do you know? I pressed, fighting the growing anxiety clawing at my throat. The real reason I was hired, she said gently. It's about your mother and something significant she protected you from. I think it's time you found out. In that moment, a veil of confusion and shock enveloped me. My mother? She had always kept her past shrouded in mystery, a tangled web of secrets and pain. Why would that matter now? I whispered, the shadow of doubt creeping back into the crevices of my heart. Because it affects Sophia, Clara replied, firm and steady. There's a connection between your family and mine that transcends what you could possibly know. I didn't mean for you to learn this like this, but it's important you understand the depths of our stories and how they intermingle. It could change everything. Sophia looked back and forth between us, her innocent curiosity an unsettling contrast to the chaos in my mind. What are you talking about? She asked, her brow furrowing as the kitten wriggled in her grasp. Before I could respond, I felt a deep urge wash over me, a mix of protectiveness for my daughter and fear for what Clara might reveal next. Stop. Just stop. I pleaded, my voice rising in pitch. I don't want to hear this right now. Clara stepped closer, reaching out as if trying to bridge the chasm again, but I recoiled instinctively. You have to. I wish I could shield you. But Sophia deserves to understand the truth about her family. The kitten squeaked at my side, pulling my instinct to protect my daughter into a sharper focus. You don't understand how fragile everything is. I cried out, desperation lacing my words. I promise you, Clara replied softly, the truth can hurt, but it can also heal. I would never place either of you in harm's way. Whatever is buried there is worth unearthing. For now, please let me show you where it began. Just then, the doorbell rang, its clear tones slicing through the tension, shifting the moment. Clara looked startled, and I saw fear cross her features, one that mirrored my own. Stay here, I commanded, my instincts pulling me towards the door with heart pounding, but uncertainty smothered me as I crossed the room. Who could it be? With every step, a cacophony of emotions reverberated through me, fear, anger, guilt, and an inexplicable sense of hope intertwined with dread. It felt as though a tidal wave was racing toward us, carrying with it secrets that had languished in the deep for too long. As I gripped the doorknob, ready to confront whatever lay beyond, I could almost hear the faint whisper of my past calling me home, a lesson that was long overdue. I took a deep breath and opened the door, ready to face the unknown, feeling more unmoored than ever as I stepped into whatever awaited me, the fragile fabric of my world on the brink of unraveling. I stood at the door, heart racing, the cool metal of the knob sending a jolt of adrenaline through me. Behind it lay an uncertainty I hadn't anticipated, an emotion slicing through the air like a knife. I opened the door to find a figure cloaked in shadows and sunlight, an older woman with familiar features, skin dark and striking. She stood gracefully, a melange of warmth and resolve wrapped in a simple, yet elegant dress. "Hello," she said softly, her voice rich like velvet, filled with a wisdom that seemed to flow from some deep well of shared experiences. "I've come to see you and the little one." I blinked, trying to process who this was. A memory flickered in the back of my mind, a laugh from long ago, a kitchen filled with sweetness and secrets. It was as if a part of me recognized her before my conscious mind could catch up. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Agnes," she replied, stepping slightly into the threshold. "A friend of your mother's. I helped raise you as a child." The words landed heavily, reverberating in the air like a thunderclap. "What do you want?" I asked, panic surfacing again, the absolute calmness in her demeanor unnerving. "Why now?" "Because it's time for the truth to come out," she said firmly, eyes unwavering. There was compassion in her gaze, an understanding that made the walls around my heart shudder and sway. "It's about your past and how it overlaps with Clara's. There are stories that intertwine, shaping all of you, and the truth can give you the strength to move forward." My throat tightened. I could feel the weight of her presence seep into the being of my home, an echo of my childhood swimming back into view. The memories of a warm kitchen, the aroma of fried chicken, and her gentle lullabies tugged at my heartstrings, drawing me into a time when life felt safe and full of love. As I stepped back, still guarded, searching for a way to absorb her words, Sophia peeked around me, curiosity lighting up her innocent features. "Mommy, who is she?" Agnes smiled at Sophia, her expression softening. "You're as beautiful as your mother was at your age." "I've missed you, dear." Sophia beamed, enthralled by the connection, and I felt an overwhelming surge of protectiveness. I couldn't let whatever history lay back there seep into her innocent world. "What do you mean you missed her?" I snapped, the words tumbling out. "You're a complete stranger to her." Agnes didn't flinch, instead nodding slowly. "As I was to you. But I've watched over you both from a distance. The past has a way of keeping us tethered, and it's time you faced it together, even if it's uncomfortable." Clara came up behind me then, her face pale. She must have heard everything. You know what this is about," she said softly, looking from me to Agnes, horror writing itself across her features. "You can't tell her now. Not after everything. It's too much." "What is too much?" I urged, desperation creeping into my voice. "What secrets are you all hiding?" The urgency of my questions tumbled out, feeling like a breaking dam. "Secrets are often what keep us from healing," Agnes said gently, her eyes steady on mine. "But they can also lead to love and understanding if we let them. There's more to Clara and your mother's past than any of you realized. Something significant that affects all of you, ties the three of you together." Just then, the weight of those words crashed over me, shattering the fragile ground I felt I was standing upon. The cryptic connections tangled in my mind, confusion cascading as I began to connect pieces to a puzzle I hadn't realized I was trying to solve all along. "Why?" I whispered, grappling with the flood of emotions. "Why can't I remember?" The unanswered questions echoed in the hollows of my heart, the fear and longing creeping in. Agnes took a step closer, her voice soothing, familiar yet filled with a profound sorrow. "Your mother hid these truths to protect you. The truth can sometimes hurt more than the lies we cling to, but it's more powerful if you confront it with those you love." As the words settled in silence, I looked at Clara, whose eyes were filled with a storm of uncertainty, then at Sophia, with innocence radiating around her. The heaviness in the room blossomed, as if the very air was yearning for resolution. But this was only the beginning. In that moment, I felt the world shift beneath me. The delicate threads of connection woven through our lives were beginning to unravel, exposing the complex tapestry hidden beneath. Tell me, I urged Agnes, a deeper resolve building within me. Tell us what she kept from me. Before Agnes could speak, Clara whispered, "We may not be ready for this," nearly breaking as the words slipped past her lips, her face contorted in a struggle between loyalty and fear. "And what if you wish you hadn't started this? Sometimes, ignorance is safer." In that instant, a fierce love emerged within me, a desperate need to protect my daughter from the bitter truths her family was woven into. But there was no turning back now. I stood resolutely deciding what was to come next, poised on the brink of discovery, when the air suddenly shifted again, bringing with it the snap of realization and dread. A quick, familiar knock interrupted us, pulling my focus momentarily back to the door. "Mommy!" Sophia yelled, the kitten now squirming from her grasp as she darted to the door. "There's someone else. They look like us." My heart plummeted as the door swung open again, revealing another woman, one whose appearance struck a familiar chord deep within, her features casting a stark resemblance to mine, only shaded by darker years, confidence, and missed moments. How could it be? I breathed. I felt the ground quake beneath my feet as my breath hitched in my throat, chaos swirling into an incomprehensible storm. The past that had haunted me was not only resurrecting, it was stepping into my life, bearing everything I had ever known into the unforgiving light, and my heart pounded against my ribcage as I realized this was only the beginning of even deeper truths on the horizon. The moment froze, time stretching out as I stared at the woman at the door, my mind racing to make sense of the striking familiarity in her features. The resemblance was uncanny, etched with a lifetime of stories begging to be told. My heart beat violently against my chest, a mixture of fear and disbelief flooding my senses. "Who are you?" I managed, my voice trembling. The woman took a hesitant step forward, her eyes wide and shimmering with unshed tears. "My name is Lila," she said, her voice trembling yet steady, a mix of vulnerability and strength. "I'm your mother's sister." I swayed on my feet, grappling with the heaviness of her revelation. An aunt? Suddenly, the walls I had carefully constructed around my past felt like they were collapsing, brick by brick, exposing a chaos I could hardly comprehend. "What do you mean? How is this possible? I thought my mother was an only child." "Your mother hid the truth," Lila said softly, anguish flaring in her gaze as if she were reliving grief that had slashed through her years. "She was ashamed of the family's history, of the choices we made. But the fractures of the past cannot be hidden forever." Clara's face contorted into a mask of shock as she registered Lila's words, her mouth opening in a silent gasp. "No, how could this happen? Why now?" Lila brushed past me, her eyes landing on Sophia, who peered at her with wide, innocent curiosity. She knelt down slowly, meeting my daughter's gaze. "Your grandma loved you, but she never wanted to burden you with the history of our family. Not when she felt she couldn't even carry it herself." "What history?" I felt desperate to understand, each word pulling at a thread of pain lodged deep within my chest. "What did she hide?" "The truth about our lineage," Lila breathed, returning her gaze to me. "The struggles, the loss our family has always faced shadows, and your mother bore them alone for too long." Sophia, oblivious to the storms swirling around her, reached out to touch Lila's hand. "Do you know what kind of shadows?" she asked with a child's unabashed curiosity, innocent yet piercing. It was then that I understood. The secrets my mother had carried were not just personal burdens, but a legacy woven into the very fabric of who I was becoming as a parent. My pulse quickened. "You need to tell me everything," I urged Lila. "If I'm to understand how we got here, I need to know what you know." Lila hesitated, glancing at Clara, whose expression was a mix of fear and something deeper was its shame. I craved answers, but the air between us was thick with tension, centuries of suppressed pain and fogged memories beckoning for release. "I can't do this alone," Lila finally croaked, her voice trembling. "We need each other to unravel this." Clara, shaking her head, muttered, "You don't understand. The repercussions could be devastating. We can't just then it will fall apart without us all together." Lila cut in, her determination cutting through the haze in the room. "Isn't it better to face this now?" As a family? The idea of embracing this unknown family connection seemed impossible, and yet, buried deep within was a desire to wrap my arms around the truth, to shield Sophia, and to finally break the cycle of silence. My heart thudded violently in my chest. Could we really become a family built on the shattered pieces of a past we barely understood? But Clara's voice pulled me back to reality. No, Lila. We're not family. Not like this. Her gaze shifted, betraying cracks of desperation, a woman who had tried so hard to build walls around her life, only to see them threaten to crumble down. What do you mean? I felt icy panic grip me, the din of anger rising within me. You mean to tell me you would rather silence ourselves again? You would choose ignorance over understanding? The air grew brittle, holding in choices unmade and words unspoken. In that heartbeat of uncertainty, my thoughts twisted wildly, punctuated by Sophia's innocent voice asking her newfound aunt, "Will you come to play with me?" A flicker of warmth passed in Lila's eyes before flickering back like a flame, doused by ice-cold water. "I wish I could, sweet girl, but I think your mom has a lot to say first." Forcing myself to stay steady, I said, "No, it doesn't stop here. We're going to dive into this, even if it feels unbearable. We owe it to ourselves, to each other." The thought of carrying on the cycle of silence felt unbearable, akin to shackling Sophia to ghosts of the past. Then, a loud crash filled the room, ripping through the tension like a jagged blade. Our neighbor, Mrs. Sanders, burst through the door with wide eyes and frantic energy. "I'm sorry to intrude, but you all need to see this," she exclaimed, her breath unsteady, face washed in urgency. "You may want to sit down. How could anything be worse than this?" I muttered under my breath, only to feel the ground shift beneath me once again. My breath hitched as I sensed another layer of a storm moving in, spiraling us into deeper chaos. The curtain of silence fell as Lila's face blanched, Clara recoiled with a whisper, and I braced myself for the truth that was hurtling through the door like a dark omen. My heart pounded as Mrs. Sanders stepped inside, the air around us thickening with apprehension. I could feel Clara eyeing Lila, who had gone rigid, every muscle tensed as if she were bracing for impact. Sophia clutched my hand tightly, a child unaware of the weight pressing down on our family, her young life still pure and untainted. "What is it?" I finally managed to ask, my voice cracking under the strain of my emotions. "What is going on?" Mrs. Sanders hesitated, glancing at each of us, searching for the right words. "It's about the history of your family, and it's tied to the church, to the town itself." I didn't want to believe it, but the rumors. She took a breath, her eyes darting around the room. They resurfaced. "What rumors?" Lila's voice was a threadbare whisper, her expression a combination of fear and hope, the desperation lacing her words evident in the tightly coiled muscles of her neck. Mrs. Sanders stepped closer, locking eyes with me. "There was a scandal years ago, something that your mother never talked about. The whispers say it's connected to a lost heritage, a family tied into darker things." Every heartbeat felt drummed into silence, a collective intake of air preparing for the impending revelation. I could feel the shadows of my past spiraling before me, encircling us as if suffocating under their weight. The world outside faded, the sunlight dimmed, as if in mourning for the secrets begging to be unearthed. "What kind of darker things?" I forced the question out, the edges of my vision blurring. "The maid," Mrs. Sanders asserted, "your mother's maid. They say she came from a lineage that held a powerful secret, one that connected to things beyond this world." Lila's hand flew to her mouth, shock plastered across her face. Clara's eyes widened, shimmering with a new terror. "No, not the maid. Not that story," she pleaded, her voice trembling, breaking under the fragile connection between us. "That maid was more than a mere servant," Mrs. Sanders continued, unwavering. "She was rumored to be a healer, a woman wielding knowledge and power. Some say she could commune with the past, others believe she had ties to ancient families." Sophia, oblivious to the gravity of the conversation, pulled at my sleeve. "Mommy, what's wrong? Why are you so sad?" she asked, her innocent tone almost a knife to my gut, forcing me to confront the chaos swirling in this room. That I knelt down to her level, brushing a stray hair from her face. "Sweetheart, we're just learning about our family's story. Stories can be confusing, and sometimes they make us feel sad. I wrapped my arms around her, wishing to shield her from the shadow of the truth that loomed above me, threatening to invade her innocence. Lila's eyes shimmered with an urgent glint. We can't ignore this, Clara. The past binds us, and it has shaped who we are. If we don't confront it, we'll be forever shackled by its weight. Clara recoiled, shaking her head fervently. And what about the repercussions? The tone in town is still dark. The history we carry could destroy us. People still whisper. She's right. Mrs. Sanders' voice was firm, resonating with the past we barely understood. Not everyone has healing hands. Some want to keep these stories buried. Choosing to expose this could make you a target. Anger bubbled inside me, the kind that ignited flames of defiance against the cycles of fear and silence. Then let them come for us. I refuse to let my daughter inherit the burdens of our family's fears. I want to be crushed by shadows we didn't invite in, I declared, my voice cracking but resolute. Mrs. Sanders exchanged concerned glances with Clara, unsure of how to respond to the sudden resolve burgeoning within me. Lila stepped forward, a spark of hope igniting in her eyes. There must be a way to reclaim our narrative, to turn these shadows into something that empowers us. Suddenly, a noise from outside drew our attention. A group of children laughed in the distance, their jubilant voices carrying through the window. Sophia glanced toward the sound, a glint of curiosity reflecting in her eyes. "Can I go play with them, Mommy?" she asked, her innocence shattering through the tension like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. No, not now, I thought, but the longing for her laughter permeated every crevice of my heart. I nodded, the decision solidifying with every beat. "Okay, but stay close," I said, watching her dart outside into a world untouched by the darkness of our revelations. I turned back to Lila and Clara. I felt another shift, something unnameable stirring in the air. "We can push through this, can't we? We can find the truth that ties us all together?" But just when it felt like we might once again forge bonds between secrets and understanding, Mrs. Sanders' face turned ghostly pale. "Oh God," she whispered, her voice quaking as she pointed towards the window. My heart plummeted as I followed her gaze, only to be met with the sight of a figure standing among the trees, shrouded in shadow, their eyes glinting with an unsettling darkness that was far too familiar. As it turned, and I recognized the face watching us, my world shifted once more, and I realized that the past was not finished with us yet. The world outside had transformed into a murky haze as I stared at the figure in the shadows. Heart racing, I blinked, half convinced I would awaken from this surreal nightmare. But there she was, the maid from our family's past, her features stark against the backdrop of the trees, exuding an ethereal quality that both mesmerized and terrified me. "Who is that?" Clara's whisper cut through the tension, tremulous with urgency. I could barely move, my body frozen as memories and stories of family lore spiraled through my mind like a tempest. "Is that?" Lila's voice trailed off, a blend of disbelief and fear cracking through its surface. Her hand clutched at her chest, her breaths quickening, as if struggling against an invisible weight pressing down upon her. "Lila, I don't know," I admitted, shaking my head in disbelief. "I thought the stories were just that, stories." Mrs. Sanders, now paling even more, moved closer to us, her eyes widening. "That's her, the maid. She shouldn't be here. Not after all that, not after what happened." "What happened?" I longed to scream, to demand explanations woven in the secrets we had all been too frightened to confront. But the moment seemed to stretch infinitely as the figure began to move toward us, slow and deliberate, as if the very earth itself was reluctant to relinquish her presence. "Mommy," a small voice broke through the tension beside me. I turned, startled to find Sophia standing just inside the doorframe, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and confusion. "Who is that lady? Is she a ghost?" I swallowed, my heart clenching. "No, sweetheart, just someone from a long time ago," I managed to murmur, but my own words felt empty and inadequate. "Please," Lila urged, stepping forward cautiously, "let her speak. We need to understand." Clara stood rooted, her back straightening as if preparing for an impending storm, fear etching deeper lines into her brow. "But what if she brings with her the burden of our family's past? What if she is the embodiment of everything we've run from?" "I'm not running anymore," I declared, surprising myself with the sudden courage. The childlike innocence of Sophia clung to my heart, urging me away from the shadows and toward the light. We need to confront this, to unearth the truths that have haunted us for too long. The maid, now closer, seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Her presence felt both heavy and achingly familiar, as though she bore the weight of generations sacrificed at the altar of silence. "You've come seeking answers," she spoke, her voice a whisper reminiscent of forgotten lullabies, brushing against my ears like a cold breeze. "But truth often bears a sharp edge. Do you possess the strength to face it?" Despite the ache in my heart, I felt a flicker of acknowledgement. We can't hide from the past any longer. We need to know what binds us. Please, show us. The maid's gaze bored into me, an ancient wisdom reflecting back, her smile haunting yet oddly compassionate. "You are stronger than you realize. But know this, to confront the past is to unravel not only the dark, but also the light within it. There are secrets that will change everything you think you know." At that moment, Lila made a move toward her, stepping into the space where fear resided. "Tell us. We need to know. Your power, your truth, it reaches beyond what we've been led to believe. There have been choices made in this family," the maid said, her voice resonating with urgency. "And the echoes of those choices resonate to this day." Just as those words hung in the air, the ground trembled beneath us, a low rumble that shook the very walls of our sanctuary. And in that upheaval, our hearts mirrored the chaos outside, the stories untold threatening to collapse around us. "What is happening?" I shrieked, trying to maintain my footing amidst the fear clawing inside my chest. The maid raised her hand, a silent command, and the tremor ceased. "The past stirs. There are those who want to keep the truth buried, and there are even more searching for it. You must be prepared." "Prepared for what?" Clara shouted, her voice shaking. "What lies ahead? I cannot say yet. You will know when the time comes," she replied, almost cryptically. But her gaze shifted beyond us, focusing on the tree-line. Before I could inquire further, an impatient knock echoed against the door, sending my heart into a frantic flutter. "Open up. We need to talk." The voice was familiar, a neighbor, but it bore an urgency that sent shivers racing down my spine. "Don't open it." Lila's warning erupted in panic. "We're in the middle of something." The maid stepped back, her form beginning to dissolve into shimmering fragments. "Remember, the veil is thin. The truth awaits your discovery. It is both your boon and your burden." And then, with the last glimmer of her presence, she faded into the shadows, leaving us with nothing but her words hanging in the air, pregnant with possibilities and laced with uncertainty. "Open up." The knock became insistent, the voice rising in anxiety, pricking the air with tension. My heart fell as I watched the reality outside our window shift again. There was more at stake than just our family's secrets. It was a world caught between darkness and light, and it seemed we would soon be swept into that divide. "Should I?" Clara whispered, glancing toward me, her eyes reflecting the fear that blossomed like a dark flower. A decision loomed overhead, a choice that could shatter the fragile peace we had clung to. Would we step into the unknown? Would we truly be brave enough to answer the call from the past? In that heartbeat of indecision, I took a breath, feeling the weight of our intertwined dreams and fears. But just when clarity seemed to settle like dust in the air, I felt a chill descend across my skin, a vast emptiness echoing back the uncertainty that enveloped us. And then came a chilling revelation, born on the winds of the unseen. Not everyone who comes to us seeks truth. Some seek to reclaim power. As another loud bang resonated against our door, I realized with dawning horror that this was far from over. The echoes of the desperate knocks on the door reverberated in my mind like a metronome, marking the frantic rhythm of my racing heart. I locked eyes with Clara, reading the dread reflected in her gaze, and felt the burden of a choice press against my chest. Behind closed doors, we had sealed our world from an unsettling past. But now we stood on the threshold of revelation, like fragile glass on the verge of shattering. "What if it's just a neighbor?" I whispered, desperation creeping into my voice. But the knots twisting in my stomach told me otherwise, an instinctual warning that this moment was pivotal, something essential hung in the balance. "Just a neighbor?" Lila shot back, her voice a mix of anxiety and indignation. "We have no idea who or what this could be. You saw what happened. We were just visited by a specter of our own making. The knocks grew more relentless, punctuated by that voice, now rife with urgency. Open up. It's important. We need help. The plea cracked through my hesitation like thunder, forcing me to confront the reality that, whether we chose to acknowledge it or not, our lives were intertwined with shadows far deeper than our family secrets. I approached the door, the wood cool against my feverish fingertips as I wrestled with the urge to just turn away, to retreat into the safety of ignorance. Suddenly, the door swung open before I had made the decision to yield. There stood Terrence, our neighbor, a fair-haired man with worry etched into the creases of his face. You have to come with me. Now. What is going on? Clara's voice shook as she stepped closer, worry surging within her. Terrence's expression shifted, raw and frantic. Something terrible has happened. I think it involves the land, the woods beyond your property. He paused, swallowing hard as if the weight of his words threatened to crush him. There's been a disappearance. Several people have gone missing, and the local authorities think they suspect something unusual is happening around here. A shiver ran down my spine like ice water, paralyzing me with dread. The maid's warnings echoed in my mind, swirling and wrapping around my thoughts like a sinister fog. No, not just a family nightmare, but something a layer deeper. What does this have to do with us? I finally managed, my voice barely steady. The trespassers, they were looking for something. I overheard them speaking about your family, about your history, he said, glancing nervously over his shoulder. I don't think it's just an accident. They believe there's something here, something valuable hidden beneath the land, and they will stop at nothing to find it. I felt a sudden tightness in my chest, a realization dawning that enveloped me in cold dread. The maid, she said, the veil is thin. Are you telling me someone is out there digging up our past? I don't know, he said hastily, but I think it's dangerous. His eyes darted to the darkened woods that framed our property, shadows flickering as a gust of wind swept through the trees, grasping at the silence that clung like a heavy shroud. It can't be a coincidence, Lila said, crossing her arms in defiance. We just saw that. She stopped short, her face paling as realization struck her. Do you think they're connected? What if the maid, what she warned us about, it's all part of this? As panic began to bubble within me, Sophia's soft voice broke through the rising tide of chaos. Mommy, she said, a sense of innocence balancing the weight around us. What is going to happen? Are we going to see the lady again? I turned to her, my heart aching, pulling me toward a dire need to protect her from the encroaching fear. We don't know yet, sweetie, but we're here together, and we'll figure this out, I promise. But even as I spoke those words, a realization dawned, unfurling a dreadful knot inside me. The revelations we faced would obliterate everything we thought we knew. Had we awakened something more powerful and dark than our family secrets, something hungry and relentless? Just then, Terrence's expression hardened with urgency. We need to get moving. They're here, and they're looking for anyone who knows too much. Who are they? I asked, the question like a knife in the dim light of the room. What do we do? A voice from outside answered with a low growl, thick with disdain. You do exactly what you're told. Footsteps advanced across the yard, and in that moment, the palpable weight of the air shifted as a pair of shadowy figures loomed at the edge of the trees, one inching closer, lit only by the silvery glow of the moon. I swore I could see their eyes glinting, familiar yet menacing faces I thought I had known in a time tangled by darkness. Run! My command exploded from me instinctively, fueled by the primal need to protect my child and the fragile hope I had held on to. But just as I turned to escape, everything fell quiet that I barely caught the words, harsh and mocking, as they sliced through the stillness. You didn't expect to see me, did you? And with that, an eerie recognition surged through me, chilling my blood. It was her, a figure from our past, one we had thought was forever buried, standing before us. The embodiment of all we feared and barely understood. The garden was swallowed by shadows as that chilling figure stepped into the moonlight, revealing a face I knew all too well. My throat constricted as the name rose unbidden to my lips. Mara? Her presence was disorienting, like stepping into a dream I had tried to forget. The lost maid from my childhood had morphed into something other. If the whispers had been true, her life intertwined with the legends surrounding our family. The atmosphere thickened with the weighty silence, each heartbeat echoing loudly in my ears. "Look at you," she said, her voice dripping with a mocking warmth that belied the icy shadows in her eyes. "Still playing the perfect mother, I see. Still trying to keep your precious little secrets locked away." Sophia clung to my leg, her innocent eyes darting back and forth between me and this resurgent ghost from our past. "Mommy, who is she?" The bewilderment in her voice broke my heart. "Take her and go," Terrence shouted, the urgency in his tone slicing through the tension like a knife. He shoved us toward the house as he stepped forward, positioning himself between us and Mara, as though he could keep her from reaching us with mere physicality. But Mara laughed, a sound that cut my skin, resonating with an unsettling familiarity. "You always wanted to protect your family, didn't you? But you have no idea what you're dealing with. That fear you feel? It's just the beginning." Lila, who had been silent up until now, reached for my hand, her grip a fragile reassurance. "She is not real," Lila whispered fiercely. "Whatever she is now, she can't hurt us." Yet the tremor in her voice betrayed her, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just some illusion. The details of my childhood memories warped and twisted with the implications of Mara's return. We had woven a tapestry of lies, and here she was threatening to unravel it all. "Does it feel surreal?" Mara continued, her eyes glimmering with a predatory hunger. "The truth always stings, does it not? You've danced around it for so long, but it's close now, waiting for you to give in." I stepped back instinctively, leading Sophia aside while trying to keep the atmosphere calm. The moonlight illuminated the outline of Hunter's Hill behind her. The legends, the ones my mother had terrified me with, shivered back to life in my mind. Was this a curse that would latch onto our family forever? "I know you were drawn back here to face it," Mara said, her expression reveling in my unraveling. "Your roots are deep, and they whisper deceit to the winds. You can't hide from who you are or what your family has done." Terrence took a brave step closer to face Mara, an act of defiance pulsing in the air around him. "Those people you claim to be seeking? They're victims, not the monsters you make them out to be. You are the one hiding behind shadows." "Victims?" Mara laughed again, this time more sinister, the sound echoing like crackling flames around us. "Doesn't it sound familiar? You think you know what sacrifice is, but it requires something much more valuable." The dread swallowed me whole. The night air thickened with her words. Captivated by my suffocating emotions, I felt gravity itself shift. I wanted so desperately to shield Sophia from the implications dancing around us. "Mommy," she tugged on my skirt again, fingers trembling. "What does she mean?" "Mara is not who she used to be, sweetie," I stammered, my words barely coming together. "She wants to take something from us." "She already has," Mara interjected, her mocking cheer deepening my spirals of despair. "All this time, you thought you could build a life outside of its reach, but it's all here, under these very roots. You just have to dig deep enough to uncover it." The shadowy figures from the woods stirred, as if summoned by her words, circling like vultures drawn to the scent of decay. I felt waves of disappointment crashing within me, uncertainty wrapping around our small family like chains. "Listen to your heart," Mara said, her voice a whisper tainted with both malice and sympathy. "If you can break free of your own fears, you might find clarity in the chaos. Or perhaps," her gaze flicked to Sophia, "you'll realize the true nature of your lineage at a cost." "Enough," I shouted, clenching my fists in defiance. The fear threatened to drown me, but there was something else bubbling just beneath the surface. "We want to pay the price for your games." "Games?" Mara's smile twisted as her figure blurred at the edges, shadows lashing around her like thunderclouds. "No, my dear. This isn't a game. This is your life, and as painful as it may be, you'll learn soon enough that some histories must be reckoned with." Just then, a spark of recognition flickered in her eyes, hidden behind that mask of decayed familiarity. "You should let them in, Elizabeth. They bring whatever it is you're looking for." My breath drew in sharply. Who were they? What deeper secrets threaded through our family's history, waiting to rise to the surface? And before I could process it all, I felt Terrence maneuvering closer, his face etched with concern. "We can't stay here. Not with her lingering." But I hesitated, caught between the immediate danger posed by Mara and the foreboding implications of her words. What if our salvation laid in confronting these shadows rather than retreating into the comfort of ignorance? Mommy, look. Sophia pointed, her voice suddenly laced with uncharacteristic intensity. I turned just in time to witness the way the shadows folded and morphed around Mara, swirling into tendrils reaching out for my daughter, encircling her in dark mystery. My heart slammed against my ribcage as I lunged forward, primal instinct igniting within me. Sophia? But in that moment, the shadows enveloped her, and everything went still. The air thickened as if the world held its breath. I felt a terrible sense of foreboding as I grasped for my daughter, who now stood transfixed, the faint echoes of Mara's laughter reverberating within the night. Mommy? Sophia whispered, her voice barely penetrating the eerie silence that had engulfed us all. My heart raced in time with the ominous pulse of my fears. What had just happened? What was about to be revealed? And above all, was my daughter truly caught in this haunting legacy of darkness? Run now? I screamed, a desperate plea for both my sanity and our survival. But as I fought to break through the shadows, I found myself confronting something so much larger than myself, a life-changing revelation that shifted with every heartbeat. Was I ready to uncover the truth hidden beneath these haunting memories and shadows? And at what cost? As panic surged through me, I surged forward, desperate to reach Sophia, to pull her away from the shadows that threatened to consume her. Get away from her! I screamed, my voice breaking as a fear I had never known clawed at my heart. My little girl, the embodiment of innocence, now stood in the midst of a nightmare that promised more than just fear, it promised a painful truth. Mara's laughter echoed, reverberating through the air like a malevolent song. She's safer with me, she hissed, her form wavering as though she were both here and not here, the lines of reality blurring beyond recognition. You don't understand the gift I offer. I lunged again, my heart racing, only to feel an invisible barrier wrap around me, a chill that sunk deeper than mere cold. No, I gasped, struggling against whatever forces held me back. I won't let you take her. Not ever. Mara's shadowy form twisted, and for a moment, I glimpsed something beneath the surface in anguish, an echo of the woman she once was, the one my mother had always warned me against. You don't know what this world has locked away. You tread on fragile ground, she said, eyes glinting with something dangerously intoxicating. To peer into the abyss, you must first be willing to face your lineage. Leave my family out of it. I roared, fury igniting a fire deep within my soul. I had lost so much already. I would not relinquish my daughter too. With an explosive determination, I forced myself forward, pushing past the chilling grasp of fear. Sophia, I reached out again, and this time, something shifted within me, a surge of love, fierce and unyielding that in a blinding flash, the darkness shattered, revealing a hidden strength. You are not alone. I spoke not just to my daughter, but to the lingering shadows, to Mara. We can choose to break this cycle. You've haunted us long enough, and I refuse to let fear determine our fate. The energy crackled, filled with light, as if the very air was chanting a unifying hymn. I felt Clara and Lila beside me, their presence grounding, unwavering. Together, we formed a barrier, a shield fueled by hope, acceptance, and a yearning to lay the past to rest. Mara's laughter faltered, an edge of uncertainty creeping into her voice. You think you can simply wish away the truth? She spat, anger and desperation swirling together. You cannot rewrite history. I can't rewrite it, but I can reclaim it. I asserted with clarity I hadn't known I possessed. For generations, we've been bound by pain, burdened by secrets, but we refuse to live in shadows anymore. We are not defined by the scars of our past. We are the architects of our future. In that moment, I felt a pulse, a rising tide of energy, an awakening in the air that resonated, flickering with hope. Around me, the shades began to wane, a fading echo that hinted at the lives they had lived. I felt Mara's grip slacken, and the darkness that had gripped Sophia began to intertwine with the light we generated, crashing against the weight of our shared fear. Mommy? Sophia whispered, confusion fading away as her eyes met mine. I could see them shining full of life, innocence, warmth. Help me. I'm here, sweetheart. I will always be here. Instinctively, I reached out, and this time our fingers interlocked a lifeline. The touch sparked the energy coursing through me, amplifying with each heartbeat, a solid reminder of the bond we shared. Then, as if the very fabric of reality shifted, the shadows peeled away, their oppressive weight dissipating. I felt Mara losing her grip, her very essence flickering like candlelight before the flame was snuffed out. "No, you can't abandon me," she hissed, the words now tinged with desperation. "You were never meant to haunt us," Clara cried, stepping into the very light we were creating. "You can't rely on fear to maintain your power over us." In that moment, I realized Mara's duality. She had been both guardian and tormentor, a reflection of my own insecurities and fears. My mother's secrets were hers, entangled in the web of pain we had all inherited, but they didn't have to be my daughter's legacy. "You deserve peace, Mara," I said aloud, my voice rising above the tumult, nearly a mantra. "We all do." With that, light poured in with a brilliant surge, overwhelming the dark, illuminating every corner of the room. Mara's form began to dissolve, a bittersweet recognition washing over her features. You've chosen," she gasped, and within that realization, I felt the air around us crackle with acceptance, a dawning understanding of forgiveness. Sophia and I stood encased in radiance, a warmth enveloping us like a protective cocoon, as Mara's shadow finally faded into nothingness. "Remember your past, but do not let it trap you," I whispered to the fading echoes, knowing full well that our lives had always been parallel, and in that intersection, we could write something new that as the light punched through the last vestiges of darkness. I turned to Clara and Lila, who both blinked against its brilliance, faces awash with hope. "It's okay now," I said, my voice trembling, heart soaring with newfound strength. "Together, let us choose healing over hurt." In that moment, I felt the past unspooling, long-hidden truths swelling within me, aching to be revealed but no longer a burden. The shadows retreated, leaving behind the promise of light and resilience. The warmth wrapping around us flickered softly, settling like a blanket woven from threads of forgiveness, understanding, and acceptance. Sophia stepped closer, her small hand clasped within mine, and I pulled her into my embrace, tears shimmering in my eyes, a cathartic release of everything I had held so tightly for far too long. "I love you, Mommy," she whispered, her pure love grounding me as I inhaled the wonderful scent of her soft hair, finding solace in the unwavering bond we shared. "I love you too, my brave girl," I replied, the truth echoing deeper than any fear ever could. "And no matter what, we will face anything together." As the sun inched upwards against the horizon, filling the world with light, I felt a sense of rebirth, a renewal of purpose that resonated within the corners of my heart. Today, we stepped into a new chapter unafraid, woven into the fabric of who we were meant to be, a family armed with love, hope, and the unyielding strength to forge our own destiny. In that radiant moment, I vowed we would write our story boldly, for each heartbeat reflected our choices to move forward not just in this life, but beyond every shadow, beyond every fear. And as dawn broke around us, a gentle whisper carried on the wind stitched together my heart's longing. "We are finally free."